Okay, well, thank you, Pauline, and good evening, ladies. It's lovely to see so many familiar faces and one or two newer faces to me. I'm going to start just to share some photos before we get going so that you've something nice to look at as we go along. Some of you will see yourselves, hopefully, as we go. Oh, I've done the wrong thing already. My goodness me. How did I get that? Where's my share screen gone? Here we are, share screen. And we'll start with this little fellow. There we go. Right, okay. So just a couple of photos to start with. This fellow needs no introduction. Oh, I've gone one head. I'm not getting off to a good start here. There we go. He doesn't need any introduction, I'm sure. This is Fergus, who was born during my triennium. He's now the president's mascot and travelled everywhere and played a huge part in my 3 years as president. There were times when I thought that members actually really just wanted him to visit. They weren't too fussy about me, because the number of people said when I arrived, oh, have you got Fergus with you? So this was Fergus. Anyway, to move on, some of you may not know that my journey to national president began actually the day that I was elected as Perth and Kinross Federation chairman. I took this office at our Federation meeting in November 2014, and at the end of that meeting, Kate Imlay, a past Federation chairman, ably assisted by some others, pulled me aside and said that they wanted me to stand for national office. I was in total shock, having just gone on as Federation chairman. I obviously said, no way. They asked me to go away and think about it, as the nomination didn't happen to be in until January the next year. Well, I didn't really think too much about it, A, because I was going to be busy enough in the Federation, and B, I really didn't think I was the right person for the job. I received a call in January to ask if I was going to allow my name to go forward. Again, I said no, but they were very persistent. After the nominations went in, and there were another 3 ladies standing at the same time, we were told that whoever got the most votes on the day would go right in as senior vice, as headquarters had a recent resignation of one of their office bearers. I remember sitting at that meeting the day that the elections were to be done, thinking, well, I really didn't have any chance against the other ladies anyway, because I thought so much of them. But I thought, well, if I don't get it, life's going to be very simple anyway, so it won't really matter. I couldn't believe it when Isabel Robertson, the national chairman at that time, read out my name first. And I remember saying in my remarks that day, it had been like waiting for the results of a job interview. Then I got the job, followed by immediate promotion. I'm not going to pretend it was an easy job, because at times it wasn't, but it was very worthwhile and rewarding. And when you've been involved for as many years as I had, it was with great pride and honour that I represented our members at all sorts of events connected to the organisation that I had fallen in love with many, many years ago. At times it did feel that I worked more voluntary hours for the SWI than I ever did when I was in full-time paid employment. That is mainly because you have to catch up with all your phone calls, emails and paperwork in the evenings when you've been out all day at meetings or functions, and there were a lot of these. There is also a lot of travelling involved, and the miles that I counted, and I didn't count them all by any manner of means, but I know I covered over 20,150 miles in the 3 years. So, having completed 3 years as senior vice chairman and convener of the magazine committee at that time, on the 16th of May 2017, I was elected as national chairman, as we were known at that time. I had actually acted a bit as chairman from the week beginning the 3rd of April that year, as unfortunately our chairman, Christine, as you would know at that time, took ill towards the end of her triennium while visiting the Dean Divas in Aberdeen. That happened just as we were preparing to open our Centenary Exhibition in the Royal Scots Club, and we were to welcome the Princess Royal later that week. I felt I was thrown right in at the deep end, because our PR company at that time told me that I had to do 2 interviews, and one was for Radio Scotland. This was followed by meeting the Princess Royal and showing her around the exhibition. I was always quite uncomfortable doing these interviews because you get no time to think, and I'm not very good at thinking on my feet. I'll just move on to another few pictures here to let you see. This was the Princess Royal at the exhibition, getting her flowers presented to her by little Ailsa McDougall, whose mum is a member of Cleash Institute in Kinross. Some of the past national chairmen meeting her.
Oh, yeah.
And this was the manager of the Royal Scots Club saying his goodbyes when she was about to leave. They're not quite in the right order, I don't think, some of these photos. I was shaking hands with her lady in waiting, who was a charming lady, as was the princess. She was lovely. Raymond and Anne and Christine meeting her. That was when she was actually arriving. And again, Christine and Anne with her. She was so interested in all that was going on, some of the Perth contingent. And Margaret Whiteford. Margaret, I think you're on tonight. You remember that day well, I'm sure. And some of the demonstrators that were there that day, including in this centenary, obviously, was banners, which are here in headquarters. Dorothy and I working on them at one point in my house. And this was them on display at a show that we visited. Beautiful banners. This was us after the centenary tree had been planted opposite headquarters. And the plaque, which took us a wee while to get organised, but we did get it done eventually, and it is in place there too. This was planting the Eryngiums opposite headquarters, and I don't know why I'm carrying a watering can, because it was pouring rain that day, but I suppose it looked okay for the photo. And the same week, we had the centenary walk from headquarters to Longnidrey, where our story had begun all these years ago. And you have Mary, your new vice president, in the middle here, with some of Catherine Blair, our founder's relations, who joined us that day, which was lovely. And again, some of the Leith girls who actually organised the walk with us. And some Midlothian banner there. There was ladies from all over took part. I officially took over on the 16th of May, which turned out to be an even more special day when my third grandson was born that evening, just before I went to bed. So this was the baby that was born that day. And then during one of our meetings weeks, his big sister really came to visit me at headquarters and had a wee seat in the president's chair. My first official duty locally was to assist Muriel Brown, our Blairgowrie group chairman at that time, in planting the Blairgowrie centenary tree. And this was her committee at the time. The national chairman also chairs the management committee of the Handicrafts Pavilion at the Highland Show each year, which involves around 4 meetings. And my internet connection's unstable, it's telling me. I hope that's okay. Then we are on duty for 2 weeks at the show in June, which is always a very busy time. And this was my lovely committee that worked very hard with me during my triennium. In my first year, I was invited to supervise Nick Nairn making pancakes, which was on television. It was a bit nerve-wracking at the time, but very good fun. He was absolutely lovely with me, although some people weren't quite so keen on him, but I got on okay with him. And one of my friends actually accused me of flirting with them on television, which was not true, of course. Just a few more photos of the Highland Show. This was the entrance to the show, to the showcase on one of the years. Joyce Luby doing some craft demonstrations with some of the ladies. And J. Hutchinson, who was one of the felting scholars, she did a demonstration for us as well. My first official duty was proposing a toast at Longnidrey Centenary dinner held on Monday the 26th of June 2017, the actual date and place where the organisation had been founded. It was a hectic 2 days as I was clearing up at the Royal Highland Show on the Monday morning, drove to Longnidrey that night for the function, came back and stayed over in Edinburgh and had to be at the BBC for 9 the next morning to do an interview for Time Travels, followed by a home skills and handcrafts meeting later on that day. There were many weeks when one event just ran into another. The 2nd of July saw us all celebrating the centenary in our own federations, and what magnificent parties these were all across the country. This was my own federation at Scone Racecourse, and it was a great afternoon. When I attended an exhibition in Stirling, Clackmannan and West Perth Federation, I met Oswald the Cat, who belonged to the venue where they were holding their exhibition. As you can see, he was very friendly and he actually stayed for the whole meeting. I'm sure many of you will remember this fellow. We were tasked with knitting a kilt for Kevin the Carrot, who appeared in the Aldi adverts at that time. And this was a selection of Kevin's kilts with some of their knitters. I was lucky to be able to attend nearly all the national events during my triennium, including the 3 summer schools held in Ayr, Stirling and Shetland. I also attended 160th birthday party, 185th, 6 90ths and 16 centenaries, and many SWI shows and exhibitions. I attended an event in every federation except Ross-shire, which unfortunately was cancelled due to the coronavirus outbreak, and Sutherland. Far too many events to show and speak about this evening, but every one was different and was so much fun meeting members from all over Scotland. I've picked out one or two other events just to tell you about. My friend Linda Smith and I attended the Haber exhibition. Linda travelled the length and breadth of Scotland with me, which I appreciated very much. There was an occasion when we were travelling to Wigtonshire, and some of the Wigtonshire ladies that are on tonight might remember me talking about this. We got a little bit confused between the sat-nav and my written instructions and ended up at John O'Groats, then headed all the way through the Galloway forest. A 3.5-hour journey ended up about 5 hours, and we thought we were never going to get out of the forest. Every corner we came to, Linda kept saying, we'll see civilization now, but civilization just didn't seem to come. On another occasion, we stopped en route for a coffee. In conversation, we were told by the waitress that where we were heading, she asked where we were heading, and she informed us that that restaurant that we had said we were going to had closed the previous week. I hadn't heard anything about this, so we just had to head on and hope that we'd find out what happened when we got there. Unknown to our waitress friend, the restaurant reopened for one day only, especially for this SWI event, so panic was over. At that same venue, we had to come out of a lovely restaurant and go down outside stairs to get to the toilet. It was a very wet and windy day, so when I came back up the steps, I looked as though I'd been dragged through a hedge backwards, and it's not really the look that you want when you're giving a speech, but nevertheless, we had a lovely day. Moving on to one or two more photos. We had the garden party on Saturday, the 9th of September in Queen Street Gardens. It was such a wonderful day and lovely to see everyone turned out in their finery. We were joined that day with relations of our founder, Catherine Blair, which made it even more special. And this was Christine and I cutting the cake. Just a view of the marquee, which was over the road from headquarters. Some of the past chairmen with the current office bearers at that time. And a few more of us all dressed up, some of the party. And Dorothy decided to have a wee snack before we went out that afternoon. And this was us cleaning up at the end of the day. Dorothy often accompanied me to events, and on one occasion her little dog Robbie was invited along too. Wow. This was at the time when we took part in the Knitting Colourful Coats for Black Dogs campaign. Mm-hmm. Robbie wasn't a black dog, but they said that didn't matter. We were invited to the Animal Rescue Centre at Balerno, where we were to take part in a photo shoot. Robbie was taken to the doggy beauty parlour, and Dorothy knitted him a lovely new coat. Just at the last minute, the centre said that they didn't want us to bring a dog after all. But then, when we arrived, they actually asked where the dog was. It had all been a bit confusing, but nevertheless, we had a good day out, and we hope that the campaign helped to give black dogs a better chance of new homes. Another interesting event was the biscuit tasting for McVitie's. They brought out a new variety of rich tea, digestive and hobnobs, all with reduced sugar. I was invited to do a tasting to see if I could tell the difference. They asked if I would source the new biscuits locally, as well as the original varieties. Then they would send a photographer to my house to do an interview and take some pictures. My friend and I took a break during the national curling competition in Perth and trailed around all the supermarkets that afternoon trying to find these new biscuits. And it wasn't very easy because we had to look at all the small print on the packets to see which were the new ones and which were the old ones. But we eventually got organised, and I had the photographer to my house for over 3 hours to get this one picture. It was quite a session, but we got there in the end. There were a few silly things happened occasionally, such as the night that Dorothy and I were travelling back from a meeting at headquarters on the tram to Ingleston, where my car was parked. It was dark, and we were so busy chatting about the day's events that we landed at Edinburgh Airport. We thought we were going to have to pay to get back to Ingleston, but a nice young man took pity on us, and sounding a bit exasperated and probably thinking to himself, silly old woman, he told us to get back on the tram, sit tight till we got to Ingleston, but he said, don't forget to get off this time. I don't have a picture of it, but again, Linda accompanied me to the walking weekend in the Isle of Mull. We went for a swim on the first morning and I slipped and sprained my ankle so badly that I couldn't put my foot down for the rest of the weekend. Kathy, their chairman, brought me in a stick so that I could hobble around. I think Linda was more concerned that she might have to drive my Mini onto the ferry and home than she was about my sore ankle. So she was quite relieved to learn that I had an automatic car. However, I did manage to drive home by the Sunday night. On the 12th of October, saw me flying over to Shetland to open their Centenary Exhibition. It was a wonderful trip, but again, the weather was unbelievably windy and a bad hair day every day. There seems to be a theme in my 3 years. I was always out in wind and rain and my hair was always a mess. And I attended the Women in Agricultural events, which are held at Gogarburn, just outside Edinburgh. Always very good events with excellent speakers. Event of our centenary year was the reception held in the Grand Hall in Edinburgh Castle. It was a fantastic evening and a truly memorable end to a wonderful year, and it certainly was one of my highlights. This is a picture of the office bearers at that time, and this lady is Elizabeth Warden, who was the Irish president at that time. And I think there's a wee photo of Dorothy setting up our exhibition for us. Not all occasions are happy ones when you're president, and on the 19th of January 2018, I attended Allison Bayley's funeral. Allison was a past chairman of SWI, and I spoke on behalf of our members. Although a sad day, it was an honour to be asked to do this. 2018, I attended the AGM of the Irish Women's Institute, and their speakers were two of the original calendar girls seen here with us. They were very amusing and lovely, down-to-earth ladies. They were absolutely terrific. I attended the Artichoke Procession to commemorate the suffragette centenary on the 10th of June 2018, along with many other SWI members from all over, when we marched through Edinburgh with our colourful banners and wearing the suffragette colours. This was a fantastic celebration on a lovely warm day. And there's a group of the ladies, some of the Dean Divas and the Leith ladies. And that's us going down one of the streets. September saw us attending conference in the city of Perth. We were blessed with wonderful weather and a good turnout of members. I have to say it was a very nerve-wracking day, as it was amidst the changes to our constitution, and naturally there were some heated conversations which I'm sure many of you will remember. Just one or two. There's Annette and Jennifer enjoying their day, and Anne and Allison Argo and a few others in the way, and some couldn't wait to get to the bar at night. Ladies, you'll all recognise yourselves there. And one or two of the guests having coffee in the morning. In December, I was invited to do a reading at the Feed the Minds Carol concert in the beautiful Greyfriars Church in Edinburgh. This was the charity that we were raising money for at that time. It was a difficult evening as I had the most persistent cough. If COVID had been around at that time, everyone definitely would have been avoiding me. Carrie's seen here with me as your Education International Secretary. She was sitting in the front row with me and fed me on cough sweeties throughout the evening. I was petrified I wouldn't get through my reading, but somehow I did. And this was, I've meant actually to check with Carrie, I think it was a police choir from Edinburgh that were entertaining that evening, and they were magnificent. In 2018, we started planning for the SWI to host the ACWW European Conference, which was to be in October 2020, but alas, one of the events postponed until autumn next year. And this is just a photo. We've been making over 100 tartan bags, which still have to have our emblem and the ACWW emblem printed on them, which our own member Jessie Meikle from Lanarkshire is going to be doing for us in her lovely big sewing machine. But that's just the start of the bags. And this was some of the ladies making corn dollies, which are also going to be put in the bags with other goodies for the delegates when they eventually get to the conference. And this was our tutor with all the corn dollies that we made. February 2019 saw the committee start planning for the Housewife and Homeskills Conference, which was held in Aberdeen. And this is a group of the people that attended the conference. One of my own members getting her trophy from Kathy, our convener at that time. Now we move on the 23rd of March. My husband and I left for Australia to attend the Acw World Conference, which was held in Melbourne. This was probably the most wonderful trip that I will ever do. I represented our organisation with great pride, and I cannot describe the atmosphere in the conference venue. It's just something that you have to experience. Around 650 women from all over the world, many in national costume, singing together. It was just magnificent. A wonderful experience was rounded off when I was invited to be a flag bearer at the finale. And as we carried the flags off the stage, the music and applause is something that I will just never forget. On my return from Australia, I went locally to Airfield, which is not far from where I live, on the 4th of April, and I watched Anne Fiddis from Argyll Federation do a tandem skydive. My second son does this too, and I always said I never wanted to see him jump out of an airplane. When I arrived that day, he was there, much to my surprise, and informed me that he would be the person to do the trial jump before Anne. If I wanted to see her, I had no option but to watch him first. He had finally tricked me into seeing him jump. Fergus, our mascot, wasn't allowed to jump with Anne in case something happened to him, so his little cousin Archie did the jump, and you can see Archie popping out of Anne's suit there. On the 13th of July, again with husband in tow, we travelled to Orkney Federation, where I presented the prizes at their show. I just about lost Fergus here as someone thought he was in the raffle. The air control strike caused many of us problems when we were all trying to get to summer school in Shetland. However, we all made it eventually, and it was one of the best summer schools I think that we've had. And just one or two photos. This was some of the ladies in my class with Joan from Shetland. And she was a great help to us organising this school. This was a shop window in Shetland, one of the displays. Some of the work of the bead class that I was in with the ladies. That is the ladies that were in the bead class. Mm-hmm. And this was another shop window, and these white faces are actually milk cartons. Mm-hmm. And this was us heading home. And Fergus having a wee rest in the wool shop. One of the other ladies took him out for the day, and he had a ball, I believe. This is Linus quilts that were made for a competition at the Royal Highland Show and presented to a Linus coordinator in headquarters. I attended the English WIAGM in Cardiff, where I had lunch with Hugh Edwards, the BBC newsreader. He is a lovely gentleman, but he was extremely nervous about speaking to so many ladies that day. While at this conference, I heard about how successful their walking netball sessions were becoming, and I came back determined that this was something we would do in Scotland. So I was delighted in November 2019 when we saw the beginning of our own netball sessions. Hopefully these will all take off again when we are allowed to get back together. Just one or two more photos. This is the new Irish chairman. She'll be just about due to finish her term of office now as well, Colette. Craig, a really nice lady too. This was the venue where we were. And the lady in the red is Lynn Stubbings, who was the English WI chairman, and the lady in the black jacket was the ACWW president at that time, with Colette from Ireland. And I had to have one of myself with you, of course. I was very keen to start up Young Dippers groups with the idea that if the girls were taught skills at a young age, they may well decide to return later in life as SWI members to further their skills. I am delighted to say that we still have groups in Perth, Ross, Fife and West Lothian and Aberdeen. But I would like to see more federations take up this idea, ladies. So if you have anyone you think you might get in touch with to start up a group, the girls just absolutely love what they do. We've managed to keep most of the groups, I think, I'm not sure about West Lothian, but I think the others have all managed to keep going through Zoom, which has been great for the girls. December 2019 was extremely busy, and one very special event was an invitation to visit the ACWW offices in London to meet Queen Aziza of Malaysia. She was visiting our Queen with her husband, the King, on their first state visit to the UK. That particular week turned out to be the busiest and most stressful I had during my term in office. My mother was very ill in hospital. I was down in Wigtonshire on the Monday at an event, visited my mother in hospital on the way home, Tuesday back in to visit Mum, and then drove straight to Glasgow Airport, where I was to stay the night in a hotel with John to travel to London the next morning very early. We were in separate cars and neither of us could find our way into the hotel. I could see the hotel from the roundabout on the way into the airport, and the sat-nav was telling me that I had reached my destination, but there was no signs and no entrance. It was teeming with rain. You probably won't remember that far back, but we had horrendous weather in Scotland with flooding everywhere. And I ended up parking in one of the airport car parks, having driven in and out of the airport car park about 3 times. I had to wait for John to go and find his way in and then come back and find me, because he was a bit more acquainted with the area than I was, but still he couldn't find an entrance. He eventually went in a one-way road that he shouldn't have gone in seemingly and got parked up. I was completely stressed and in tears by the time he found me. We were up early the next morning, flew to Heathrow, couldn't get a connection to the other side of London where we had to be, so we had to hire a taxi, which cost us a fortune. We knew we had time for lunch before I had to head off to meet the Queen, but the office phoned my mobile to say that they had been given notification that she was to arrive earlier than expected. We had just ordered lunch, so I had to leave John to eat both lunches and literally ran in high heels and glad rags in wind and rain again to get there on time. When I arrived, all the other guests were standing to attention, looking immaculate. I've never been so embarrassed. A kind lady pushed me through the line of people and said, "Quick, you've got 2 minutes to comb your hair." I was then pushed into my place just as the Queen arrived. Late that evening, we arrived back at the hotel in Glasgow, and I was up at the crack of dawn the next morning to drive back the same road I had travelled on the Monday to another institute in Wigtonshire. Travelled home on the Friday to visit the hospital again in the afternoon on my way. All this week, as I said, I was driving about in the most atrocious weather conditions with lots of flooding on the roads. So I was really quite glad and looking forward to a couple of weeks off over Christmas. So this is Queen Aziza here with the CEO of ACWW, Trish Collins. This was her entourage that came with her, with the 2 Irish ladies. They seem to manage to creep into the photo somehow or other. And I can't just remember, I think it was this lady and this one were daughters of the Queen who came with her as well, but they were all such nice people. And the Irish ladies again. The crafts, those of us that had been invited to this day were asked if we could bring or send some crafts with us to make up a little exhibition. So this was 1 or 2 of my things. And of course I had to take Fergus with me. So that was him there. Now we move on. I had a few events still to attend before the end of my triennium, but alas, the 14th of March, when I visited Peebleshire Bulb Show, that was to be the last event before lockdown. I had set out to visit at least 1 event in every federation during my 3 years, but I only had Ross-shire and Sutherland Federation to visit, but that was not to be. So just a few random photos. We had a fun night at Pow Mill in Kinross-shire's Roaring Twenties evening. This was a marvellous cake at an institute over in Argyll. It was all edible. It was absolutely super. My own institute's 90th birthday was during my triennium. And summer school in Ayr, with Elizabeth there doing a bit of patchwork, I think. Linda and I visited Arran, I think about 3 times during my triennium. And this was when we were over for the golf. And I do tell people that was just Coke and tonic in these glasses.
Aye.
Putting a few stitches in the welcome panel of the new great tapestry for the visitor centre at Gala Shields that we heard Susie talking about the other week there. This was one of the displays at Peebleshire, along with the 2 of the ladies that were on duty that day, and that was the last event. This was Pow Mill member Janie Buchanan being made an honorary president of Kinross Group, and I was honoured to pass on her certificate to her. Lizzie Baxter, a young member in Angus Federation, during one of the 15-minute variety competitions, she was playing the national president in their little skit that they did. I hadn't met Lizzie at all until this day, and just before her team went onto the stage, she came running over and she grabbed a hold of my hands and she said, "I just want to apologise before I go on the stage." And I thought, what on earth is she apologising for? But then I was to discover that they were kind of taking the mickey out of the national president, so it it was very well done and very funny. She's a lovely lady. She's the daughter of Carol Steele, which
it was gentle. It was gentle.
It was. She's the daughter of Carol Steele in Angus Federation, which many of you will know. This was a Mopsy with Fergus, his girlfriend, with one of the country dance tutors up at Pitlochry at the country dance weekend. This was Linda and Harris. We took a wee holiday, the two of us, and while we were going over there, I contacted the Harris ladies and said that we would really like to meet up with them. So we had a nice day with them. Unfortunately, we didn't get any photos of the members. I went to a coffee morning down at Cleash Institute where Fergus met Fiona, the Cleash bear, which was lovely. Now, this was in one of the Fife Federations. This lady is Margaret Whiteford, who's the Fife Federation chairman. And this lady turned out to be I get this right now, the mother-in-law of one of my members' sons, who we hadn't met, and we'd spoke about Blairgowrie, and she said, oh, I've got relations in Blairgowrie, and it turned out that I knew her daughter and son-in-law very well. A group of ladies at a concert that we attended during meetings week in the Royal Scots Club. So that was us there. Again, this was the Bushmills distillery on the study tour, which was a great event. Some of them had a wee bit too much of the whiskey, I think, at Bushmills, but they all had a lovely time. And this lady in the background celebrated her 90th birthday while we were there. Great company she was. Yeah. Now this, some of you might remember this lady, Stella Siddel. She was a member of Meagle Institute in Perth and Kinross, but she was also a home skills demonstrator for a number of years for the SWI, and I hadn't seen her for years and years. And I went to one of the institutes in Argyll, and here Stella was there, so it was great to catch up with her again after so long. Life is not always full of lovely meals when you're president. This was Dorothy and I having fish and chips out of a box in a Kinross hall before a Federation bingo tea. I had been at a meeting in Edinburgh that day and stopped off to attend the event in the evening on the way home. This was celebrating at Whitson Institute, where Fergus was given his own chair. And I was awful tempted to try and bring that chair home with me because I really fell in love with it, but that wasn't to be. This was Kinross marking my presidency, which was very nice of them. And Jay Hutchinson here, who was, as I said earlier, one of the Felting scholars. She is a great painter as well. And she did this picture of a cockerel, which was presented to me and which hangs in pride of place in our office, because for those of you that don't know, our family business is all poultry orientated. So it has pride of place in our offices. This was summer school in Stirling, where the three office bearers all turned up in spots, having not discussed what we were going to wear that evening. And this is the baby that was born the day I became chairman, who has now celebrated his 4th birthday. So moving on, lockdown was very difficult for many, and I was very thankful to our PR company, as I'm sure many of you have been, who started Womankind Daily Touchpoint for our members. We had and still have many members who pop in and out, and we all thoroughly appreciated being able to chat and see other members during that dreadful time. It is still taking place, and now organising Zoom classes, demonstrations, keep fit and chats, and we've even had a cocktail making class and cheese tasting. The 8th of May 2020 was the date I should have officially handed over to Anne, but again, this had to be postponed. However, we eventually managed to hold our AGM on Zoom in August 2020, and although a sad day for me, I was delighted that I was handing over the helm to such a lovely lady, a lovely friend, and a very capable member. The handover was viewed by around 3,100 people, and around 100 shared and commented on the video. A lady in Blairgowrie at that time decided to make a film of events and people who did remarkable things in the community during COVID-19. She also invited people to send in details of things that had happened for the first time during lockdown. I told her about the SWI's first virtual handover, and she actually used a small part of our videos in her film. So it's quite nice to know that the SWI and I have made a wee bit of history. Ladies, I've had so much from my 48 years in rural. I hope I've now given something back for all the fun, friendship and opportunities that the organisation has given me, and I will be forever grateful to the members who had the confidence in me to give me this opportunity. This is a photo of the beautiful badge that Anne presented to me the day I retired. It's the first of its kind, and I will wear it with pride when I finally get out to things to do with SWI. And there is a beautiful poem in this book of memories, which Anne also put together for me, which I will treasure. I have since added all the lovely cards and letters that I received from members in this book. So this has been a very, very condensed account of a wonderful 3 years. We all know what a great organisation that we're part of, and I hope soon that we'll all get back to doing what we enjoy as members. So thank you for listening, ladies. And I'll now not share my screen.
Thank you very much.
There we go.
That was great. Shall we just give Linda, oh well, unmute yourself, everyone. Unmute yourself, and then we'll give Linda a round of applause, and then
Thank you very much.
Did you see your life flash before your eyes there, Linda?
Oh, absolutely. I can remember the day that I went on. I said to my husband that evening when we went to a room, I said, gosh, what have I done? The 3 years, it's a long time. It went past like a flash.
Yeah, I really like the picture of Cameron on your knee at the end there. That was on the last day of your 3 years, wasn't it? So
it was. Yeah.
Yes,
that's right. Yeah, we kind of broke COVID rules to get the picture, but I just felt I had to have it.
It's great. Yeah. Well, I'm sure we're going to have lots and lots of questions. So, ladies, if you have a question, you can either shout my name and I'll come and find you, or if you want to do it quicker than that, then you can just go to reactions and put your hand up virtually. So whatever you want to do, whatever's best for you, then I can manage both. So has anyone got a question for Linda? I'm sure you have. So my question is, Linda, first of all, is how's your wee mini?
Sorry, I didn't catch that, Polly.
How's your wee mini?
Oh, it's my wee mini. My wee mini's actually survived, believe it or not. It was quite funny because during the 3 years, somebody took a picture of it parked somewhere. I think it was up the Longskirk Way, and I hadn't seen it on Facebook. But some of the ladies up there hadn't thought it was right that this should be on Facebook, because I think they put a caption on it: "Guess who this is," or "Guess where she is," or something like that. And I was only told about it afterwards. I thought, oh, that would be quite fun, the members guess where I am. The ladies hadn't thought it was the right thing to do, so they took it down. Yeah, the mini travelled a lot of miles, I have to say, over water and everything as well. But it was good. Yeah.
Maybe it should be donated to the SWI museum when that museum made like
I'll see what my husband thinks about that.
Yeah, maybe not donated. Maybe donated is the wrong words. Oh.
Yeah. Well, I can never quite believe just how many lovely ladies I met throughout the whole time, and I feel so sorry for Anne. Anne, you're there tonight. You're just not getting the same opportunity. I know you're meeting on Zoom, but it's just not quite the same as getting out and about. It was just lovely, and I've made so many lifelong friends through it.
Yeah, but I'm sure Anne will have her day, won't you, Anne? Because you
eventually. I'm all excited. I'm going to the Highland Show next week.
Great.
At least you're saving on outfits, Anne.
Oh yes. Yeah, not wearing out the shoes at all.
No.
Yes, I must say, I really admired all your lovely outfits all during your time.
Yeah.
Immaculate.
I can tell you a wee story about that. Some of you will remember Shirley Wallace, who was a national president at one time, and unfortunately, through all the changes, Shirley decided to resign. She wasn't too happy about a lot of things. But the day or the week after I came home from being elected, she appeared at my door with a beautiful leather-bound notebook. And I said, oh, that's absolutely beautiful. That'll be really good for keeping notes in. She said, it's not really for keeping notes of your meeting. It's for keeping notes of what you wear to different events, because, you know, you can't be seen with the same outfit twice. Well, that's not going to happen.
Oh, dear.
I have to say, I've got a wardrobe full of outfits that'll probably never be on again, because now I'm in trousers all the time.
I know.
You'll get going again. We'll all get going again soon.
Hopefully, yeah.
So Linda, what would you, if you had to pick, I'm going to ask the journalist question now, because that's what I am. If you had to pick one thing that was the pinnacle of everything, what would it be?
I think there's two. I mean, from Scotland, I would say the event at Edinburgh Castle was really special. But the ACWW World Conference has to be the be all and end all. To me, it was just magical, you know, to see a lot of the ladies in their national costumes. And while you were going in the interval periods, when you were going around the exhibitions and things that were on, they would get themselves into their little groups, and all of a sudden they would just break into song, and you know, they would sing something from their country. I just thought it was absolutely wonderful. It's just something, if you ever get the chance to experience, you should go. Absolutely.
And if someone had ever told you that you were going to be the president, or not the president, the chairman, before it was the president, the chairman of a national organisation for the country, what would you have said when you were?
I would have completely laughed at them and said, no way. As I say, even when the Perth ladies did approach me, I was absolutely shocked. I said, there's no way that I could even consider doing that. It's something that, although I had been president of my own institute and everything, you know, to do a national thing like that, I just never ever dreamt I would think about it. But as I said, they were very persistent, and it was really my husband that made me decide to do it, because I had more or less said, I can't do this. I said I would, because at that time I was working in our business full time, and I said, there's no way that I've got the time, and I'm just not doing it. I'd made up my mind, and then the night that I had promised to phone them and tell them what my decision was, again I went through and I said, right, I'm going to wait to make this phone call to Kate. I said, I'm not doing it. And there was just a pause, and he looked at me and he said, if you don't do this, you're going to regret it. And I said, why? I said, I won't regret something that I haven't done, sort of thing. And he said, yes, you will. He says, you've done so much in rural in the 48 years you've been in it. He said, you'll look back and wish you had done it. And so he made me stop and think again. I thought, oh, I don't know whether I should do this or not. And then decided to go for it. And well, I'm so glad that I did.
Yeah. And he got a trip to Australia for it. So you know.
He did, yeah. And that was a big struggle to get him to go, believe you me. He was insisting at the beginning there was no way that he was going to Australia. In fact, he doesn't mind flying, but he just felt it was far too long a flight. What was he going to do while I was busy there? And we went through all the scenarios, and I said, well, I'm just not going on my own. And I said, this is one opportunity now that I don't want to miss. Please come with me. I was pleading with him to go. So yes, he did, and he thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah. He met up with a poultry farmer out there, which was quite good. So went and saw around a poultry farm and whatever. So he managed to fill in his time eventually. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. Oh, that's great. Does anyone have any questions, guys? Because I could ask Linda questions all night, but you know, it'd be a bit boring because you might have lots of questions that you want to ask her. I'd like to know, Linda, when are you going to go to Sutherland and Rossshire?
When they invite me.
Yes. I
would be willing to go anytime.
You need to do that, don't you?
If Anne's going up, I can always go as her buddy in the car.
Yeah. I understand you have to be invited to the next Rossshire Federation show, so you'll be all right.
That'll be something to look forward to.
That's all right.
It was disappointing because I was so determined I wanted to visit every federation, but then, as I say, COVID put paid to that. So.
Well, you did very well, apart from one out of 31, yeah.
That's
great. That's great.
Right. Okay. Bye.
Annette's got her hand up.
Hi, Annette.
Hello.
Lovely.
That was great, Linda. Were you always used to speaking in the public line?
No, that was part of the reason that I really worried about taking it on, because apart from being my institute president, and I think I had been president a long time ago of a local wives club, but that didn't involve a lot of speech. I was making up the speeches and things, and I remember phoning one of the past national chairmen to say, you know, when you went to different institutes, did you make a different speech up every time? You know, I was thinking about it all. She said, no, just change what you're saying a wee bit. But I have to say that worried me a lot, because sometimes you would go to federations and there were visitors from other federations who'd maybe heard you before, and I used to think, oh gosh, they'll be thinking she's so boring.
I know, no, good.
You know, I had no experience, and I've often actually said I wish I had the opportunity when I was younger, because I learned so much in the 3 years that I could have used in my working life. You know, if I had done it when I was younger. So yeah, there's a tip for anybody that's got young neighbours. Try and encourage them into it when they're young.
I know. Thanks, no. Excellent.
What Linda would you say? How, I'm going to put you on a spot here. How would you like people to encourage others to join the SWI? Because that's such a major part of the thing, isn't it? You know, we come into the organisation. How would you encourage people to bring people?
It's very, very difficult, as we all know, but I was saying it to a lady today that I'd met for the first time who's moved into the town, and I said, are you involved in anything? Oh no. I said, oh, you'll have to come to the SWI. Oh, what's that all about? And I just keep enforcing on people how we're such a friendly crowd, and although we're known through tradition for our crafts and baking, it's not all about that. It's about friendship and companionship, especially nowadays. And you know, for younger retired ladies as well, you know, I keep saying there's so many opportunities. You have to come along and pick out of it what you want. You know, don't listen to other people. I'm a great crafter, but I don't enforce that on anybody. I said there's other things that you can do if you're a golfer, if you like curling, whatever. There's just something for everybody.
Yeah, lovely. And the junior, tell us a little bit about that, because that's your baby, really, isn't it? The junior. Sorry. Tell us a little bit more about Junior Dippers, because that's your baby, isn't it, really?
Yeah, well, I got the idea through the Embroiderers Guild, which I'm not a member any longer of, but I was at one time, and they have not the Embroiderers Guild, sorry, the Quilters Guild, and they still have young quilters. And I thought, well, if they can do that, why could we not do something in the rural? So Dorothy's one of the ladies that I twisted her arm, and one or two others, and said, look, come to the house some night, let's have a chat about this and see if we can start something in Perth and Kinross. So it all just stemmed from us having a wee chat, and one of us said, right, let's get a hall first of all, let's put posters out in the local schools and clubs and things. And I think on the records, we've got something like 20 odd girls now. They don't all, before lockdown, they didn't all come every time we met, but we always had maybe about 10. And we're very lucky in Perth and Kinross because a lot of our members have given their time. They come along, or did come along on a Saturday morning and did a wee class with them on something. And as I say, since we haven't been able to meet, we've been doing it every 2 months on Zoom. And we've gone a wee bit further afield. We've had the lady from Angus, we've had Joan from the Edinburgh area, and people have just been very good at giving their time to come along, and the girls just love it. They really do enjoy. And even although we have all this carry on now about not putting photos on Facebook and all the rest of it, we ask the parents or guardians permission if we can do that, and they've all said by all means. The girls love to see their pictures and showing off what they do. So yeah, it doesn't take a lot of work. No, we've met up, I don't know, Dorothy, how often we've met, maybe 2-3 times as a wee committee. There's 4 of us get together now, and we make up a wee syllabus and twist somebody's arm to come and do the demonstration. It's only a couple of hours, maybe at the moment on Zoom it's only an hour at most. When we meet up maybe from 10:30 till 3 on a Saturday, and we do a wee thing with them. As I say, we do it every 2 months. I'm not sure what the other groups are doing at the moment, but it works good for us. And we're having a wee break just now until September. We'll start again in September.
Yeah. So Susie, I was listening to Susie yesterday, Susie Finlayson from Roxburghshire Federation. She was saying that she'd gone into the schools and done things on the tapestry welcome panels, the Great Tapestry of Scotland welcome panels. And she said that the kids in the schools were just completely into it.
Yeah.
So, she was quite worried about going into the schools, but they were completely into having all these different things that they can do, because people lose touch with some of the skills that other people have. Sometimes it skips a generation, so it's really nice to have someone go in, or someone to give up their time on a Saturday in order to teach people those things. And it might only be 10 or 20 people, but 10 or 20 people that wouldn't have known that otherwise, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
It's quite important. So if anybody wants to do that, I know that the Aberdeenshire Federation is doing it. West Lothian, you said, yeah?
Yeah.
And your federation. So if there's any,
if anybody would consider it, if they get in touch with me, I'm happy to help them, get started with their different things that they need to do. It's changing a wee bit because we're obviously getting into safeguarding and all that sort of thing nowadays, but we've had meetings with Anne and Raymond about this, and we're trying to keep it as simple as we possibly can for the groups. But I'm willing to help anybody that would like to try and start up a group in the federation.
Those safeguarding things are really just getting the PVG, aren't they? So you get a form that says you're okay. They check you out and it says you're okay. So that's quite simple, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing terribly complicated about it. And as long as the people, like I keep saying, as long as myself and my 3 other helpers are aware of everything, and there's always at least 2 of us with the group of girls when we do meet face to face. There's always 2 of us with whoever's doing the class, and maybe an extra couple of helpers or whatever if we need them. So as long as we're aware of what we have to be aware of, it's fine.
Yeah. I don't think that's too onerous.
No, it shouldn't put anybody off.
No.
And it's good fun. The helpers enjoy it as much as the girls.
I know Pauline's not on tonight, but Pauline from Aberdeen will tell you, they've joined our group and we've joined theirs on Zoom, and we've had parents come on Zoom as well. We in Perth and Kinross, we don't have parents at the actual classes with the kids, but on Zoom we've had parents and grannies and whatever. And in fact, I think one week we actually had more adults than we had children.
So we're spreading the word in many ways.
We are, Anne. We are. Yeah.
Well, that's another important point, isn't it, Linda? That you can have a relationship with the child, but then the mother of that child might not know about SWI, and they might not have been a member, so then they might be interested in joining or doing something else. But I think as a volunteer, you get so much more out of things. It's a very good for your mental and physical well-being to volunteer for different things, and working with children and working with young people is a very rewarding thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Anne, are you while you're on, Anne, are you going to continue that lovely work?
I hope so. Yes, very much hope so.
Good.
Encourage everyone to give it a go.
Yeah. And I'm sure, Linda, that all of the syllabi that you've worked out, you and Dorothy have worked out, they can just be rolled out to other federations, can't they?
Yes, there's ladies on here tonight that have helped us a lot too, so I'm sure we could twist their arms to go elsewhere.
Yeah. Great.
And I think they get a lot of fun out of it too. Do you, Maj? You've been on, and Mark, who else have we got? We've got one.
Yeah, it's really good fun, and the girls always enjoy it.
Yeah.
Beaver away, whatever you give them to do, it's good fun.
Yeah. And Maj, you're an ex-teacher, so you enjoy being with young people, don't you?
I really enjoy it. Yeah. It's nice to be back in contact with the kids.
Yeah.
And it's lovely when after a Zoom meeting or whatever, you get the mums emailing you back to say, oh, so-and-so had a great day and she loved it, and this is some of her pictures. It's really rewarding.
That's when you feel it's all worthwhile, don't you?
That's right.
Yes. Yeah. Great. Now, does anyone have any other questions for? I've dominated the proceedings. So has anyone got any questions for Linda? or Anne, if you want to. I'm thinking, no, not me. Anyone have any questions? No.
All I would say, ladies, to finish with is don't be put off by taking an office, because it's one of the most rewarding things you can do. I know it seems very onerous at the beginning, as I've admitted to, but it's worthwhile at the end. It's really good to get involved. You get so much more out of everything if you get involved.
Yes. Yeah. You put in something and you get it out. Yeah. Well, I thank you very much, Linda. I think we'll let you go and enjoy your evening now. But thank you very much, and I'll just give everyone a chance to say thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Lovely to see you all again.
Yep.
Take care.
Thanks, Linda.
Take care, Linda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Second.
Bye bye. Bye bye.